Hello and welcome to this jazz guitar lesson. I'm Chris Whiteman and thanks for joining me. Today we are going to look at the Miles Davis composition Tune Up from his 1956 release Blue Haze. This is going to be part one of a two-part lesson where we build a basic chord melody in part one, and then we'll come back and we will build a more sophisticated, complex chord melody in part two.
All right, so whenever I'm working on a tune, learning a tune, or arranging a tune, particularly if I'm doing a chord melody, I like to step back and take a look at the big picture, and that's going to start with, what's the form of this tune? And here we have a 32 bar form, which is a standard jazz form. And within those standard jazz forms, they break down in different ways. Sometimes they break down in 8-bar phrases. This one actually breaks in half evenly. We have 16 bars and 16 bars. So we can call this an A-B form. So that would differentiate the first half from the second half. We're going to look at what key we're in. Here we have a key signature indicating D major or B minor. If I look at the first cadence, I see it's a 2-5-1 in the key of D major. I'll also look at the final cadence and I say, oh, look, it's a 2-5-1 in D major again. So it's pretty safe to say that this tune is in the key of D major. And then the next thing I'll do is I'll go through and I'll do a harmonic analysis because I want to understand the harmony. I have to understand the harmony if I want to build a chord melody because I'm going to be harmonizing the melody and I want to do it accurately with the correct harmony. So we have a 2-5-1 in the key of D major. And you're going to notice these 4-bar phrases. So first 4 bars and then the second 4 bars is going to be another 2-5-1, and it's going to be a whole step down from where we started. So 2-5-1 in the key of D. Now we have 2-5-1 in the key of C. We have the same exact melody, both rhythmically and melodically, just sequenced down in a whole step. So this is just transposed down one whole step. This measure 8, we have something that's not in measure 4, and this is an enclosure of the melody in measure 9. The melody on this line is going to be different, so a new melody, but same harmonic progression. We have another 2-5-1 down a whole step from the previous line. Now here we have something different. In the first 2 lines, the resolution to the 1 chord lasted 2 measures. Here we have a 1 measure resolution to the 1 chord in the key of B flat, and then it moves to the 6th chord. So we get a little bit more motion here. And then the last line in the first half of the tune is a little bit deceptive. If we look at the final line of the tune, we go to E minor and we have another 2-5-1 to the original key center of D, right? Here it looks like we're going to do a 2-5-1 to D, but it's deceptive. We play the 2 chord and then we actually move up to the 5 chord of B flat. So I'm calling this the 2 in the key of D major. We have F7, which is going to be the 5 of B flat major. So we're moving back to the same key center of the previous line. And then we get the A7. This would be the 5 that would be paired with the 2 in the key of D major. This is how I think about it. It doesn't mean you have to do this analysis this way. I'm sure there's other ways to think about it, but this works well for me. Now we're going to have a repeat. The next 3 lines are the same as the first 3 lines. So if you learn the first half of the tune, you've got the majority of the song. So like I said, exact repeat. And then the final line is just a 2-5-1 back to the original key center. So it's actually easier than line 4 of the first half of the tune. All right, so that is a basic analysis of the harmony. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the melody and start to harmonize it with those chords and start our first pass at a chord melody.
All right, so let's get started building our basic chord melody for tune-up. I'm going to pull up a lead sheet that's going to have the chord symbols and the melody, and we're going to use that to start the process. So if we look at the first bar, we're going to see E minor 11. Now, if you're looking in the real book, you know that first harmony is going to be E minor 7. But if we look at the relationship of the melody to the harmony, the A against the E is actually the 11th, right? In the lower octave, it's the 4th. This is an extension, so we're going to call it the 11th. And I like to change the chord symbols on my lead sheet to represent that relationship, and it makes it a lot easier for me in the arranging process if I understand that. So I'm going to place that right here at the 7th fret. So we have an E minor 7, which gives us a G in the melody. I need an A, so I add my pinky, and that gives me the E minor 11 that I need. And then the second melody note is G, so I'm just going to come down to E minor 7. So, right, A to G there. And then in bar 2, we have an A7. The melody is D sharp. That's the sharp 11. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an A7 shell voicing. That's going to give me my foundational harmony, A, G, and C sharp. And then I put the melody on top, which is the D sharp. Right? And we put those two together, and then that melody moves from D sharp up to E. So we can harmonize that E as well by holding the chord and sliding the index finger up to the E, or I can abandon the chord and then move into the next measure, which is the melody note F sharp on a D major 7, and so we have a nice D major 7 drop 2 right there that works perfectly. So that first 4-bar phrase. Right. The next 4 bars, as we mentioned in the analysis, are going to be an exact repeat both harmonically and melodically, only down 1 whole step. So look at bar 5, D minor 11, moving down the melody note a whole step, I get a D minor 7, and then we're going to move to G7 sharp 11, I make my shell voicing, I have my C sharp in the melody, slide it up to D, and then resolve to C major 7. All right, we put those 8 bars together. Now, in bar 8, we have a little melodic enclosure. We have a E natural to a D, and then moving into the flat third of C minor, right? So coming from the C major 7, because that's still the harmony when the enclosure starts, I'm just going to play the E. I can pull off and grab the D, or I can pick it. You can use a pick if you want. I'm using my fingers. And so that's the enclosure into the C minor 7 that has the E flat in the melody. E flat again. And then the third E flat is an anticipation of the next harmony of F7. So I'm going to attach that E flat to an F7 chord, and I'm basically just playing an F7 shell voicing. I have my root, my flat 7, my third, and my E flat melody note. So, right, and then as I'm holding the F, I look at the bar 10, I see the melody is going to move up to F on the first string, then G to A, and then I resolve to my 1 chord B flat major 7, and I'm going to play it here at the 8th fret. Right, and that's, I harmonize, and I get my 2 D's, melody notes harmonized with the B flat major 7, root position, drop 2 voicing here at the 8th fret. So coming from the C minor at bar 9, and then in bar 12, we have no melody on beat 1 and 2, but the harmony changes. So I want to move to a G minor 7, right? And I call this kind of like a harmonic placeholder. There's no melody, but I need to hear that harmonic change. And then the melody note on the end of beat 3 is D, which is going to be under my index finger on the first string, to C natural on the 13th fret, 2nd string, right? And then this moves back to E minor 11 in bar 13. And then we kind of had this little deceptive move where we actually move to an F7. So the harmony changes. I'm going to play just a stock F7 chord. When we come back in part 2, we're going to really make these voicings much more interesting, add some color and some tension. But I want to understand this basic foundation first. So I move to F7, and then I have this melody that goes G, A, C, A, G. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and that's the rhythm. And I'm going to end up playing a B flat major 7 here at the 8th fret again. A is my melody under the 2nd string, right? So from bar 13, right? And then another harmonic placeholder, the harmony's changing to A7. I'm actually going to voice it as an A7 sharp 5 to add a little bit of color. I have A, G, C sharp, and F. And then the melody is C to B flat. And so that's going to be an A7 sharp 9 with a sharp 5 because the F's still in there, to an A7 sharp 5 flat 9. Then that takes us in to the second half of the tune, which is almost identical with the exception of bar 29, 30, and 31. So let me play the first half of the tune in entirety. So that's the first half. Like I said, second half's going to be identical. So bar 17, 18, 19, and 20. Bar 21, bar 22, bar 23. Now in bar 24, we don't have the full enclosure like we did in bar 8, where we went E to D into the E flat. We're just moving from the E into the E flat on top of the C minor, right? So, and for the F7, I'm going to come up to a different shell voicing. I'm going to do the 5th string root shell voicing here and walk up. All right, so F7, F on top, G on top. We could play the full F7 here. If you have enough time, if your technique's not that good, you don't have to harmonize that A. We could do. And then again, moving to G minor, melody note on top, D, C, and then here's the final 4 bars, E minor 11 to A. I'm going to play an A13, and then finish on a D major 7. All right, so that's the complete basic chord melody. I'm going to give you one option that will help deal with the static harmonies that we get at the end of the 4-bar phrases, right? So if you look at bar 3 and bar 4, we have D major 7 for 2 measures, and then the next line, bar 7 and 8, 2 measures of C. So that's a long time to sit static. In part 2, we're gonna come back and build some more motion, but for now we can simply just alternate the bass, right? And that will give us a little bit of motion and make it not feel like we're sitting so long on a static harmony. So that's gonna sound like this. Right, so I just played D major 7, went down to the 5th, and then back up to the chord, right? And all this information is notated in standard notation in PDF that's available for download to my Patreon subscribers. And we will come back and do a second version that's going to add a little bit more complexity. So hopefully you found this information useful, and I'll see you next time.